So GALVmed is very focused on R&D and particularly in respect of meeting the smallholder farmers' needs in Africa and South Asia. So we have a different range of projects which extend from effectively repackaging of existing products to meet smallholder needs, all the way through to basic research and looking for opportunities to fundamentally change markets. To give you some examples, we've worked on Newcastle disease. Now, there are plenty of Newcastle disease vaccines around the world, but not all of them are well suited in terms of packaging or their thermotolerance to the needs of smallholder farmers. So we've done a fair bit of work in that area. We've also picked up a vaccine for East Coast fever, set up the manufacturing plant, re-equipped that, made sure that the quality of the vaccine is suitable, improve the formulation of the vaccine and so on. So we're working on different things, looking at cost of goods reduction and product suitability. But we're also working in some basic research areas. One that springs to mind is working for the development of a novel trypanoside. So trypanosides have been around for 50 or 60 years based on two main molecules. There's a degree of resistance in those molecules. There's a recognition of a need for a novel approach. And we're working with a number of partners, but including one of the major multinationals, on the development of a novel trypanoside. So a second strand of what GALVmed does is market development work, trying to increase awareness of the benefits associated with use of animal health products in the markets we serve. So the mortalities associated with many basic diseases are quite significant, and a lot of it's just down to the lack of reliable availability of products at a local level. So we've worked with villages and then regions to try and increase, often through NGOs, the availability of products. Latterly, we've realized that the best way to make significant change in an area is to work through the private sector. If the private sector can be convinced of the economic benefit of supporting the needs of smallholder farmers, then they will invest, they will make sure that the vaccines or the products that are required are always there, and they will open up a new market segment. So perhaps one to highlight is the collaboration we've had with Hester Biosciences in India, where we've, in 3 states, soon to be expanded to another 3 states, been working with them to de-risk their entry into the smallholder segment, opening the way for them to be able to invest in that segment, look at the opportunities that exist there. There are many, many hundreds of millions of people in the smallholder livestock segment, and for them to develop their own business model such that after a number of years, 3, 4, 5 years, they will have a sustainable, profitable business which will no longer need donor support. So the third strand of GALVmed's work is looking at policy areas where the government-controlled aspects of inputs to animal health are perceived to be, or actually constraints on success in the marketplace. So I think that covers 3 particular areas, or at least we're involved in 3 particular areas. The first one is the whole process of improvement of the efficiency of registration of animal health products, ideally at a regional level, and we've been working very closely with the East African community, to a lesser extent the Southern African Development Council, to register or to put in place regional processes for registration, particularly of vaccines. In East Africa, it's advanced very well. In Southern Africa, there's a strong demand for the improvement in processes. It's still a work in progress. But the encouraging thing is that in the last 6 months, we have submitted 1 dossier coming from one of the international partners for assessment through a centralized or a regional approach to harmonization, whereby one assessment will give a registration in a number of East African countries. It's going through the process at the moment. It's looking encouraging. The inspectors from the countries have done their visit to the site of manufacture, so we're hopeful that everything is proceeding well. But there's a lot more work to be done in that area. The second area would be the whole role of paraprofessionals in the delivery of animal health products. Obviously, animal health products are and should be under the control of veterinary surgeons, but that doesn't mean that every vaccine that has to be administered should be given by a vet. It's not practical. In many countries there are far too few veterinary surgeons, and in many places there's a lack of willingness to live in the rural areas. They like to stay in the towns. So there's a need for a backup, working with suitably qualified, suitably trained paraprofessionals to administer certain approaches, whether it be vaccination or worming or a number of other areas. And again, we're working with other partners to assist in the proper regulation of the role of paraprofessionals. And the final stream on policy is work that we look forward to continuing shortly in the establishment of industry associations to provide lobby groups, neutral professional lobby groups who can work with the government to improve the interface between the private sector and the government regulators. What I really like to stress is the importance of the partners that GALVmed works with. We are nothing without the partners that we collaborate with. That could be a local veterinarian or a local consultant in one of the countries in which we work, or it could be a multinational corporation. All the way from one extreme to the other, those partnerships are absolutely essential to what GALVmed does. We don't have our own labs. We don't have our own scientists. We have just people who are able to coordinate the input into the areas that we need to focus on. And those partners are absolutely essential to our success, and we need to fully recognize that.